I'm your host, Antonio. What you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself. And what you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Got a great day for you today. A great day. Yes, this is the day we've been waiting for. This is the first day, too, of Black History Month. Let's savor in it a little bit because your boy, 47, 45, with his DEI stuff, he wants to suspend, eliminate all DEI observations. That means that the federal government is not going to observe Black History Month, probably Juneteenth as well, and he might try to work on Martin Luther King Day. But they say that's written in the script somewhere. But again, this is where we at, my people. And that's why it's so important for you to fortify yourself, get yourself ready. This may be a blessing in disguise for Black folks because we don't tend to act and do anything until we're up under the gun, until there's some pressure, until you come on TV, you see tanks rolling down your streets, and then we want to pay attention and not pay too much attention to LeBron James and the football game because now things are threatening. But this is the time to fortify yourself, to learn yourself up on some things, on some knowledge, to knowing how to get together, to see what our ancestors have done in order to sustain themselves. That's what we know. That's inside of us. It's already there. But we've been tricked. So, great show for you today. We got our good brother Wayne Chandler's coming on. We're going to chop it up a little bit before we meet you guys down there at the Wings Academy, 2450 Prospect. Doors open at 3 o'clock or 3 p.m. Come on down. Give me a call, 216-323-6155 if you want me to hold a few tickets for you at the door. All right. In the remote studio, we got our main man, Brother Vince. What's going on?
Well, we got a full day ahead of us today, and as you just mentioned, we'll be at Wings Academy at 3 o'clock. The doors will open, 2450 Prospect Avenue. It is a great institution, and we have a great guest and speaker lined up for you on that day. Also, I want to let you know that there is going to be a photography exhibition at Larchmere Arts next Saturday. It will begin at 6 o'clock, and we have Dwayne Phoenix. He is an upcoming photographer. We want to showcase his work and open the doors of Larchmere Arts to artists in the community. And one other announcement, if you haven't heard, there is going to be a gathering of musicians at Larchmere Arts Monday at 7:30. So if you are a band leader or you are a musician and you have an interest in performing in venues in Cleveland, Ohio, stop through. We're going to have some dialogue. We're going to talk about some things, and we're going to move forward with some strategies to get folks paid in the city. So without further ado, we would like to welcome our guest. He is no stranger to 360 Info Network. He is one of our esteemed brothers, and we will be blessed to hear his words today at Wings Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, and everybody else. Everybody, Brother Wayne Chandler. Wayne, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, that put a serious smile on my face.
Right on, my brother. Right on, my brother. Yeah, I guess I would have to say possibly the last 2 years. When you come on the show, most of the conversations has been set around financing, personal development and things of that nature. But I think some of the people and, in our communities may have forgotten that you are a serious historian and a lecturer as well. And I wanted to bring us back to, some of the things when I first, saw you, man, maybe about 20 so years ago. I don't know when it was. It was a long time ago.
Long time ago,
yeah,
20-something years.
Yeah. It was a long time ago when I was sitting at your tutelage, listening to you, man, and getting informed, about some things. When I think about something, I think back. And I remember, I said, Dad, I got that from Wayne. You remember, Wayne, when you had that silver finger ring that you used to wear?
Yeah, that's right.
I got that from you, man. I wouldn't got one, and I lost that ring. I've been looking for that ring for 10 years, man. Something similar. I mean, they had some ones where it wasn't quite like I wanted it, you know. But if you in your travels, brother, if you ever find that ring again like that, man.
I got that ring in London.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, man. I love that ring, man. And it fell off my, I don't know what happened to that ring. But anyway, brother, and George, always enjoyed your lectures, man, and it was always profound. So I wanted to take people back a little bit and some of the things, and like you said, you had to go back to the archives and pull that stuff off, you know. But you know, and just like in my opening, I said that we have to fortify ourselves with information, you know, because we don't know which direction we're going with 45, 47. And, you know, like I say, it may be a blessing in disguise where we may come together, because you have to be living under a rock not to know that something serious is going on the planet all over. And that's why our attention and our focus have to be pristine. We have to be right there on, like they used to say back in the day, with the young kids say, on deck. We got to be on deck, you know, for right now to move forward. What are your thoughts on that, Wayne?
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, we're barreling down, you know, the pathway, you know, to 2039, which is supposed to be the official age of the beginning of Aquarius. And that being said, you have to think about what has to basically transpire before we enter that particular frequency, because it's going to be a much higher frequency. The planet is being prepared for that. Humanity is being prepared for that. And when we step into that portal, you know, we can't walk in there with dirty shoes. So a lot of changes are afoot, and we haven't seen anything yet. And everything is going to be intensified as we make this journey between where we are now and 2039. You know, there are going to be massive changes. Probably several will be uncomfortable on many different levels. And so it really comes down to how prepared you are as an individual to be able to stand in the fire.
Wow. Yeah. You know what, back then, way back then, when you talk, I remember one of the you know, at one of the lectures that you talked about this energy field that's going to soon encompass the planet. You talked about this photon energy belt that's heading our way, and we also talked about, I think you even showed us a slide talking about globally where we had these little hot spots, you know, all over the planet, and our ancestors kind of knew where these vortexes were that they received, that more energy seems to be concentrated on the planet at certain given points. Wayne, can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's the planetary grid, and our ancestors had because they knew and they had an understanding of the design of the planet far superior to what we have. You know, even with all of our technology and scientific intentions to redirect and direct humanity and civilization along specific courses, we still don't see a lot of what the earth is really about in terms of its divine design. And so the planetary grid is a technology. It's a planetary technology that our ancestors used to build civilizations upon, because the vortexes actually created, you know, this specific resonance that was all about expansion of the material and the spiritual. And they would literally come and put their civilizations, grow and evolve their civilizations, or as you call them, hotspots, these vortexes. And what's really interesting right now, I've been working with this guy over in the UK, and his he calls himself a geological analyzer, and he's been measuring the energy in the grids for the last probably 20 years, and has found that there's so much activity in the grids right now that it's evident that we're being moved into something that is akin to a totally different frequency and framework about how we're going to navigate new realities coming around the corner.
Wow.
And his thing is that now the grids are becoming completely and totally saturated with these frequencies, and that they will come online probably this month. You know, he said either the very end of 2024 or the very beginning of 2025, that all these new founded frequencies locked within the grids are going to become totally active, and the entire grid pattern that surrounds the planet is going to go live, and that's going to have an imprint on all life in terms of activating and expanding in frequency via consciousness all life on the planet.
Brother Wayne, you mentioned in a meeting that we had last week that there was an alignment of planets in the sky, and there was an energetic shift that occurred as a result of that. And I think perhaps it's just a figment of my imagination, but I do feel a certain energetic shift within my own person. Can you comment about that phenomenon?
Yeah. We had that take place, and it just, the main crux of that design just ended really a couple of days ago. So yeah, if you're doing any kind of a practice, you're going to be absorbing that frequency, and then it's your responsibility through your practices that you have, meditation, internal design practice like pranayama, qigong, to be able to take that energy that you have absorbed and retain it, hold it within the core of your beingness, so that that energy now has a direct imprint and influence on your genetic code, and is operational even after the alignment ceases to be. When you hold and collect the energy, it maintains its operational design regarding your genetic signature.
Yeah. Wayne, I remember when we talked about during that time, and you say it constantly all the time, when we talked about this new energy and this new shift, you always talked about the importance of us being ready to receive this energy. And I think you might have said that for some, this energy may be detrimental to you if you're not ready for it.
It's detrimental to most because, we've been living in a three-dimensional construct, and our systems are not really 5D ready. And so a lot of what our current mission is to move as far out of our three-dimensional framework back into our natural fourth dimensional framework so that we can be ready for our journey into 5D. That frequency is so evolved that most of us have just not done the work to prepare ourselves for such a shift from three into five. So you have to look at our diet. You have to
Gotcha.
look at the factors of pollution in the
Mhm.
cities we live in. You have to look at the fact that most of us don't even know how to breathe. So the meridians that are responsible for absorbing and moving that energy from one part of the body into another through the organs, through the glands, are so congested that when we download that energy, it's going to be uncomfortable for most.
Brother Wayne, there are probably folks who are listening who don't know the difference between 3D, 4D, and 5D. Is there a simple way that you could explain it to them so that it makes sense?
It's frequency. It's the ability when you go from 3D into 4D, it's all frequency. So, for example, I can stand in my kitchen and with this little garage door opener, I can press a button. It sends a frequency through the infrastructure of my house, hits my garage, and opens my garage door. Everything is frequency. So when you move from 3D into 4D, that is an elevation of your basically your bioenergetic resonance that now is allowing you to see, experience, and manipulate energy from a higher vantage point. So now you've become not a prisoner of your three-dimensional construct. Your three-dimensional construct is now beholding to your intention and where you want to take it and what you want to draw from it, what you want to create now within it. You become the creator now, as
Okay.
opposed to being, the
Mhm.
servant.
So, in essence, what I'm hearing, or at least what I'm feeling from what you're saying, is that the way that you live your life dictates the frequency that you vibrate on. And when you alter certain things about the way you live your life, you can enhance your ability to vibrate at a higher frequency, or you can lower your frequency based on things that you do that are detrimental to that.
Definitely.
I use your word, Wayne. No question. But see, again, with that, how does when we dealing with the micro and the macro, and we talk about being connected, and we talk about something maybe in the last 10 years people maybe been talking about this entanglement and in our relationship and things like that. And I think a lot of our people really don't get the gist of that relationship, because I remember, like you said, one of those lectures how we talked about, like you got billions of cells and there's billions of stars out there. How at one point you had talked about how some of the planets is kind of have some relationship to different organs in the body and things of that nature. So I was going off to thinking like, are we encapsulated in some big scheme of things? You know what I mean? Like somebody's body. You know what I mean? The creator.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are in a sense, I believe we're encapsulated in the residence of divine mind.
Okay.
And within divine mind, there is a very specific, from where we stand anyway, program that's running, which if you make certain moves, you get certain brownie points that allows you to go a step up. And when you get to that level of accomplishment, you can do other specific things that will allow a enhancement of your frequency, and you can step up to another level, which allows you a deeper level of control with respect to the environment of which you are a part. But yeah, we're in the cauldron, of divine mind. And there is a very specific design that's in play. And it's about how we, to the betterment of our own intention, can come to a understanding of what that design really looks like and how it benefits us.
Because that's what I'm gonna talk about a little bit, opening up for you. There is, that relationship and that understanding pretty much who and what we are as people is concerned, and to lead and segue and leading in a little bit about what we're going to talk about at the lecture and getting people to come on down today. We have this science that we are talking about, which our ancestors were thriving on a long time ago, and understanding, because they was grounded in nature. They was grounded in, and I jump on some of my Bible scholars sometimes, because the church tends to veer you away from the cosmos, as it's, ooh, spooky, don't pay no attention to that. But I always bring them back around to say, wait a minute. In the beginning of Genesis, the Bible say the firmaments in the heavens would be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So if you negate the cosmos, then you're missing some of the signs of what's happening and what's going on. And our ancestors knew that. And my point of it's kind of leading into what the lecture was, some of our participants who come would be blown away to see that we have took this knowledge all over the planet.
Yeah.
All over the planet, we took this knowledge all over the planet, showing folks, teaching folks, building structures that is relative to the cosmos and how it relates all over the place. Could you touch on that a little bit, Wayne?
If I could, just real quickly, I just want to interject this. Many people don't realize that the Bible is actually an astrological book. When you look at the fact that 12 disciples and Jesus was 13, he was the 13th entity. 13 is a very spiritual number. There are so many astrological references in the Bible, but when we talk about Christianity and we talk about astrology, many Christians will push back on astrology saying, oh, it's a cult. A cult simply means that it's hidden knowledge. That's all. It's not spooky. It's not evil. It's not something that's going to degrade. But I just wanted to interject that, and Wayne, I welcome your comment.
Yeah, I mean that's on point, for sure. Everything is interrelated, and what I find really fascinating about our current reality is that those, who operate at the highest levels of three-dimensional maintenance, they understand really have an understanding of the integration of the various parts that create our reality. They operate in to a large extent um, with those particular factions, and they give us those elements that makes us believe that there is only disconnection and segmentation, in this reality, that the dynamic, the design of an integrative reality does not really exist, that everything is compartmentalized, segmented, and disconnected from each other. So when you look at the human body, for example, you have like a plethora of different um, medical practitioners who take one part of the body and become very adept at dealing with that one part. But sometimes when there's disorder comes from another part of the body to really imprint upon that specific area that they may be, really cultivated, refined, and an expert in dealing with, but they can't figure out what's going on now in this area that they have become so adept at. And it's because the issue is coming from a different place in the body mind that they have not taken the time holistically to really understand, or even examine. So this dynamic of compartmentalization is akin to the whole three-dimensional constructural design of reality, and we have bought into that lock, stock, and barrel. And because of that, we operate from a platform of limitation.
Mm. And that's one of the main things. That's something that I really try point, along with culture, try to stress, to our listeners and to people that I come in contact with, that we're really operating and following the wrong path of everything, of our whole knowledge of self, cosmos, the planet. Our ancestors, like I was saying before, traveled all over, teaching people, these particular concepts, and I think people are going to be amazed at some of the things that you're going to show them today that Black folks did, and we tend to just like get to the edge of Africa, and like we didn't travel into the Middle East and Eurasia and all the rest of the places, that we just stayed around there, and now the last 10 years we come into the whole piece of, foundational, Blacks over here. And yeah, we was here, we was all over the place, and then built structures and taught sciences and things like that. And so in this position that we're in today, and it's kind of like what I'm gonna speak on a little bit, and you hit it, Wayne. We operate on this departmentalized, limited type of existence, and we really don't have a clue on who we are and what we are.
I want to interject too that it seems as though this compartmentalization is something that functions to keep us away from our understanding of our divinity.
No question.
And keeping us away from our understanding of divinity keeps us away from the power that enables us to handle the things that we need to handle. So there's a lot of intentionality in terms of the way we're socialized into doing things and herded into certain ways of thinking. You mentioned the medical industry. One doctor doesn't know what the other doctor does, but you got all these systems in the human body that work together. They don't work, independently of each other. They work together
Right.
in order for us to function properly. So you go to this specialist, that specialist, that specialist, and they're all telling you something different. And the other thing that happens, I think, and this is just something that recently has occurred to me, is that we have all these screening processes. It's like the doctors go on witch hunts to find something that they could see as being potentially wrong, and then they want to attack it, you know. And but when they attack it with something that's unnatural, and then that causes problems, and then now you're just piling up problems that they can treat and charge you for. And yeah, you only pay 20%, but sometimes 20% is a large figure, and it all contributes to the business of medicine and what they call healthcare, which essentially is death care. I want to take this time to remind the listeners that you're listening to 360 Info Network right here on AM 1490 WERE. Our guest is Brother Wayne Chandler, and he will be at Wings Academy today. The doors will open at 3 o'clock. Tickets are $20 in advance, $25 at the door. And if you're interested in a ticket, you can call 216-323-6155. Connect with Brother Hamtonio, and he'll do what he can to hook you up. Also, just want to give you this quick reminder. We are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. It would be really great if you could go to our YouTube channels, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you get notified when we do these kinds of broadcasts. Brother Hamtonio?
Yes. Thanks, Wes. Yes, it's I was an amazement when you first talked to us and did a lecture about the black presence in India, because some folks see this thing is good. This thing is crazy out here because we are all over now. That's why I say things is changing and going awry. We having all these debates about our black presence now. It seems like it's in the forefront of most conversations when you start talking about history and things of that nature. Were these people black? Are the Mayans, the old Olmecs, you know what I mean? And I'm saying it's got to be halfway obvious. You could go up in India and we see people from India. They're as blacker than us sitting right here. You know what I mean? And the only difference you would see is the dialect, the accents on the words and what the things of that nature. Where you think they got that black skin from? And it's just amazing. And people, oh well, don't look, well, he's dark, but he's not the same kind of dark as you are. You know what I mean? It's a different kind. I mean, it's amazing. In order for them not to put and give us our origins of humanity and you can look at things like Buddha and some of the Indian deities and over in Asia, which I believe you're probably going to show some of those today, and see the curly hair, and things like that, and it's almost like don't even look at that, don't even pay no attention to your eyes, what you're seeing. That's not really black, because they even got so far as saying that the darkness on some of the pieces in Egypt, well, the ashes, or they tried to make some excuses about why they were black, but the eyes of those particular relics and things like that were white. So or like in the Olmecs, they didn't have the tools to crisp that nose off real good, and that's why the nose is big. But then you got intricate details carved with dreadlocks in their head. What's going on, Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, it behooves them to really lay down a program that keeps us completely and totally disconnected and ignorant of, our own genesis, and what that really entails. I mean, there's so much information regarding our history, what we've done, where we come from, the things we've accomplished. You know, when I did this program, this was back, I guess, the end of December, just before I left to go down to D.C. Because Tony Browder brought me down to do a presentation, and he had me on a radio show, and the brother that's interviewing me is asking me specific questions, which really leads me into making the statement that they have found a nuclear reactor
Oh.
in Gabon, West Africa, that was 2.5 million years old. And Tony was like, "What?" Tony was like, "Man, come on, yeah, I find that very difficult to believe." So my publisher was on the call, was listening to the program. He called in because I gave him, the source that they could research. He went, researched it, called in, sent a text message to Tony and said, "Yep, he's on point. 2.5 million-year-old nuclear reactor."
I looked it up too, Wayne. I stopped. I paused right there and went and looked up. Remember, I called you and I read. I said, "Come on."
Yeah. So when you look at that, you have to take into consideration that our entire timeline is fraudulent, is inauthentic, made up. Walt Disney, 100%. Because if we're looking at the construction of a nuclear reactor 2.5 million years ago, then what has transpired between then and now, for most, if not all, is incomprehensible, let alone what came before that period, which allowed them to create such technology.
You know what? 1 second, Vince. It makes me think when we find things like that, because there was, that one book that was out there called Forbidden Archaeology, and it has things like that in it that is unexplainable. It's unexplainable, like undigested food in the Antarctica they found in mammoths. It seemed like almost, what was that movie? What, 12/12 or 2012 or something? When everything froze over at one time instantly like that. It makes you think about things like that, and it makes you think about, are we in this continuing cycle here, of upheavals, hills and valleys as far as civilizations is concerned? Because that's the only way I can see to explain some of the things that you're talking about. That we're constantly in this up and down. Civilizations rise, civilizations fall, and things like that.
It's a cyclical reality, and once we embrace the nature of rhythm, which I speak on in my book, where things expand and things contract, we move into a cyclical order that brings about different textures of reality. And once we begin to embrace that concept as a reality, we move through and navigate our current reality in a far different and more comprehensive manner.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it seems as though there's been a certain level of de-evolution.
Oh, no question.
When you think of the fact that people today can't explain how those structures were built so long ago, they were energy systems. You look at some of the buildings that were built in Europe and other places on the planet, they still can't explain how they were built, because from a contemporary perspective, we don't have equipment that could have done what was done back then. You know, you look at some of these churches and the steeples on them, and there was a lightning rod, and it was an energy system. You know, we look at EVs today and think, wow, what marvelous technology, but they were making electric scooters and electric cars back in the day. But because
Yeah,
Rockefeller wanted to sell petroleum, the electric cars got pushed to the side.
right.
You know, so when you look at the cyclical aspect of it, and the other thing is just the whole idea of narrative. The folks who are controlling the narrative don't want you to know how ignorant they are about the past, so they give you their version of it that makes them look good. You know,
No question. No
I mean,
question.
if you just look at the math and the sciences that they went to Kemet to learn,
Yeah,
we brought
yeah.
them civilization, but then they try to make it seem like they brought civilization to us. They they didn't even know, they didn't have soap. They didn't have sewage systems. These are things that we were already doing before they had any awareness of it. So control of the narrative is so important. And I think that's why history is so important, so that we can uncover the things that we have already known, bring them into our consciousness, and move things forward.
And
Yeah,
that's what I say
the
about my
deep,
brothers too, man. We're just
yeah, the deep thing is one word, primitive.
mm,
They have us thinking that when you go back, you're stepping into a primitive reality.
yeah, yeah.
And so
Mhm.
once you embrace what has transpired in the past as being primitive, then you look at the things that were created at that time, and that takes you even deeper into this reality of just confusion of
Mhm.
how these things were created and put upon the planet. Now, if you remove the idea that they were primitive, then it brings about a totally different
Mhm.
method of design.
Yeah, yeah. I totally think it's one of the things I'm gonna speak on for us to, and see, it's almost, here's a current example. Here's a current example, because people think time, is linear, and meaning that as times go on, things must get better. Sometimes we associate time moving forward with things getting better because we've seen, hey, we were in slavery. Now we can sit up here and talk about some things and things of that nature. But you can see right now, who says it has to be linear? 45, 47 just gutted a lot of this, the six programs that's been around for 60 something years. Who say you can't go back into slavery? Who say you can't, and see, we think and we take that for granted and don't think that it can happen. So we be lackadaisical in our movements and our organizations and things. And this is critical times, So we definitely, it's definitely cyclical. We definitely can revert back.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of that, is based on where we are. Those mechanisms of cultural and human manipulation, they take on a different texture and frequency because slavery looks different.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to look the way it did, a few
Yeah,
centuries ago.
yeah,
It
yeah.
it it takes on a complete and totally different, design.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Well, the illusion is freedom. People think living in this country means that you have a certain level of freedom, but in actuality, this is a country of slavery in on so many different levels. But we're delusional about it because we embrace what they tell us about being free.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's really profound, and because we have to keep in mind that we're operating within the in terms of the Igbo, the Uga Azi, in terms of the blacks of ancient India, the Kali Yuga, that we're operating within this age of deception and illusion. And what these ages tell us is that whatever is presented to you, don't look at that and take that, embrace that as a definitive reality. You have to go and look beyond what's not being presented, what's not being seen, because that's where the reality lies. And it's I was looking at the confirmation hearing of this woman, Tulsi Gabbard. It was fascinating. It was really fascinating because they're really grilling her on both sides. I mean, they do not want her in there because of the information that she has, and that she actually carries some degree of moral balance in terms of how things need to be done and implemented in the world today. And she brought up, because she was always a part of the Democratic Party before she switched over to the Republican Party. And what made her switch over to the Republican Party was her coming across this inside information during the Obama administration of how they went in and overthrew Iraq and set up these various programs that would definitely make sure that a new power structure was put in place by the CIA, and that, the administration at that time had full knowledge that this was going on. So you see things. I'm looking at so many of these hearings and coming away with, wow, that happened? Because it's a whole different look that we're able to get, that's very enlightening, very, very enlightening. And it gives the vision that no matter which way you cut it, we're moving into a totally different framework that's going to deliver a totally different reality to humanity. The mere fact that this guy stood up in front of the WEF and made this proclamation of change, I was like, whoa, you talking to the devil. And you talking to the devil like that? That to me was deep. I don't know what his agenda is. I have no idea what his agenda is. We have to wait and see what this cat is really going to do. But what I tell people is that you cannot wait for someone else to implement whatever their program is. You have to do you. You have to be invested in your own level of transformation, awareness, and clarity in order to navigate this new reality that's being put on the steps for us to embrace.
Well, I want to go out on a limb and say that there's the reality that they want to create and plan for us, and then there's the one that's just going to happen cosmically. When you go back to what happened in 2020, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, you look at what happened just last week with that alignment of those planets. There are certain things that are going to happen regardless of what they plan to do.
No question.
The other thing is that, just going back to the idea of things that are cyclical in nature, I flash back to 1980 when President Reagan took office. And the same shock that's taking place right now is the one that happened back then. There's nothing new about this going back and forth between the parties and what one side wants to do and what the other side wants to do. The thing that's consistent is the fact that we react to what either of them does.
Right.
People were looking at the immigration situation and the fact that people are being snatched off the streets and sent back to wherever they came from. That happened during Obama's administration.
Right.
Okay. When President Obama took office, what happened? We have military installations in all 54 African countries.
Right.
And then there are testing labs for vaccines and bioweapons in all of these countries as well. This happened during the Obama administration. So
exactly.
we have to be careful about looking at one or the other.
Right.
47 is the face of the dysfunction, but he's not the sole participant.
Right.
There's an army of folks that are making these plans and carrying out these plans that we're reacting to. But it's exactly what you said, Brother Wayne. We got to figure out what we need to do and not be so consumed with what they're doing. So if they want to push back on DE&I, let them do that. They're going to do it anyway. And now that the veil has been lifted and they have permission to step away from it, they're gladly participating in it because they didn't want to have those measures at their companies anyway, but they were being forced to do so by public opinion.
And what's deep about that, because that is a really big issue, what's deep about that, which is information that was just released yesterday with DEI, is during the Biden administration, they put in special hiring requirements for like the FAA and such, which allows them and really incentivizes them to hire mentally challenged individuals to be and operate in those positions of FAA authority, which is insane. That's pure insanity. So again, it's like understanding and recognizing the game and then choosing not to play. But you've got to see the game first in its entirety.
You know what I think? And I'm gonna have to cut out in a minute and just I'm gonna let my screen play, Vince, and I have my sister come down and cut it out when I leave out. But for what I think is that they don't snuck a reset on us already. I don't remember, if you remember beginning of Biden's administration, they kept talking that we was going through COVID reset. We need a reset. Things that we are used to is going to cost us more. You can see they restructuring the workforce and AI and the money system. It's like when that they dimming that light in the room and you don't recognize later on that the room is dark. They'll snuck a reset on us already.
This is the thing that people don't understand about the two different systems. Biden is a politician. Politicians do not broadcast what it is they're going to do. Trump, on the other hand, is not a politician. So he's broadcasting everything he's going to do.
That's one way to look at it.
But when Biden came in, he implemented the movement of CBDCs to bring them in, because all Biden did was he was given the WEF, Klaus Schwab playbook, and that's all he followed during his administration. The CBDCs, 15-minute cities, social credit scoring system, all of those things were brought into play during the Biden administration. But if you ask one person out here in the world, what's a CBDC? What's a 15-minute city? What's a social credit scoring system? Crickets. They don't know it. They've never heard of it because it wasn't broadcasted through media. And that's how they play their game.
Okay. Well, my brothers, I'm going to have to leave it right here. Vince, just like I say, just take me off the screen, I guess, and I'll let it continue to play so it can be on my channel. So I'm just going to encourage everybody to come on down. The door is open at 3. We're gonna have a great time. There's gonna be a little African drum in there, a little food until it runs out, and some vendors set up as well. So come on down. Brother Vince is gonna be there introducing Brother Wayne, and we're gonna do our thing and just to kick this month off right. Like again, even though if he take any DEI out or whatever, guess what? We don't need their permission to do anything. You know, it's on us. You know, we don't need to go. If he take Juneteenth back, so what? We can still do our thing. You know, we don't need nobody's permission to do it. All right, because we was doing it long before they made it a holiday.
Okay?
That's
right.
All right.
That's right.
All right.
My boy Silas is in town, and he was talking about which I didn't know, that it was Kent State University that took Black history from a week into a month. They initiated that. They created Black History Month, taking it out of the week.
Oh, wow.
That's all we had at the beginning was a week.
Yes. Well, I'm going to embellish that on the other side of noon. Wayne, if you can hold on for a few more seconds or a few more moments, we'll do that. But I also want to take this opportunity to reiterate to those who are listening on the radio that there will be a program at Larchmere Arts, 12726 Larchmere Boulevard next Saturday. We have Dwayne Phoenix. He is a photographer, and he's going to do his very first photographic exhibition at Larchmere Arts. So we welcome you to attend. It's going to be free and open to the public. Come and see some art and connect with this brilliant young new artist. Also, want to give a shout out to our engineer, Tone Harley. My brother, he is the man at the studio, at the controls, making sure that we are on the air and we're on YouTube and Facebook. So we thank him for that. And most of all, we thank you for listening. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your absolute best day. Peace. To those of you who are with us on YouTube and Facebook, our guest is Brother Wayne Chandler. He will be doing a lecture at Wings Academy today. That is 2450 Prospect Avenue, right downtown Cleveland. It is a magnificent building. It's a place where young people are getting an African-centered education. They are learning the history that he's going to be talking about today. I think some of your lecture is going to be focusing on the African presence in Asia, if I understood what Brother Hamtonio said last week regarding the program that we're having today. I don't want to get away from the conversation that we were having about central bank digital currencies and cryptocurrency and so forth, because I think it is absolutely vital that our community know about this and take advantage of it. The Biden presidency was marked by an anti-crypto stance. One of the things that President Biden did was he signed into, I guess, reality, an executive order 14067, I believe it was, and it called for the study of cryptocurrency. While they were talking about studying cryptocurrency, they were actually looking at ways to utilize digital technology to eliminate our privacy and gain control of our resources. The current president has said no to CBDCs. He is embracing cryptocurrency. As a matter of fact, he's profiting from it because somehow he was able to create a meme coin. And I don't know, brother Wayne, were there billions made with
Yeah, I
that
mean,
token?
I've listened to three accounts of people that made $1 million or more in less than 24 hours off of the Trump coin.
Wow. Now, for those who don't understand, cryptocurrency is simply digital currency. It's digital currency. The US dollar is digital currency in a way because most of the transactions that take place with dollars and cents are digital. It's not the paper and the coins that we're used to using when we go to the store sometimes and get on folks' nerves when we pull out those bills and that change and have to waste all that time counting stuff. but basically what it is, you have currencies, and people are able to acquire these currencies at a relatively low price sometimes, and somehow based on the demand for that and the activity in the marketplace, then the circulating supply of it, they gain value. And just like stocks, you buy low and you sell high. If you want to look at it as a game, that's the game: buy low, sell high. And with the digital technology that we have, everybody's got a phone. You can just pick up your phone, go to Cash App, go to PayPal, and you can buy digital currency. This digital currency is a store of value in certain situations. In certain situations, it is an investment that you can make. I'll give you an example. Brother Wayne, I bought some HCX. That's the Onyx coin.
Okay.
I only spent $200. And I was looking at my account a couple weeks ago. And that day that I looked in, I saw that it had gone up 100% in one day.
Wow.
100%. And so I looked at the activity over the space of 2 weeks. I started out with $200 and I had $2,000 in my account for that one coin.
That was a good move, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. So, bruh, I bought some more last night because it's only 3 cents a token. It's only 3 cents.
I got to look into that.
Yeah. So I'm just saying to the folks that are out there, if you choose to participate because you don't know or understand it, to use Wayne's word, it will behoove you to look into it and see how you can gain from it, because that's what they're doing. But
No question.
what they did last year, brother Wayne, is they had this situation involving someone called Sam Bankman-Fried. And Sam Bankman-Fried was somebody who gained the confidence of Democrats and Republicans because he was giving them money for their campaigns. And it turned out that his very platform was one that exploited people, and it put a negative mark on the crypto industry. So whenever you brought up cryptocurrency, the first thing people would think of, because they've been programmed by the media, was, oh, FTX, oh, Sam Bankman-Fried, oh, that's a scam, and distance themselves away from it. And while all this was happening, you had people who were making millions of dollars by using cryptocurrency. So you got the
Yep.
scared, and then you got the people who know what's happening and they're capitalizing on it. And the truth of the matter is, it's the great equalizer because it gives everyday people access to real world assets. Can you break that down a little bit for those who perhaps don't get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, you basically, cryptocurrency, what people feel is such a big risk, it takes our own individual exploration into what it is, because the benefit of it can move us out of survival mode so easily, so fluidly. All it takes is a little bit of research to understand exactly what it is that you're investing in. And you don't even have to go in with a lot of money. You can go in, you can look at, okay, well, how much money, you know, do I have that I feel I can lose? Can I lose $20? Can I lose $50? Can I lose $100? And you can say to yourself, well, yeah, I can lose 75 or $100. I can throw that away, invested in something that could turn, as you said, that investment into $1,000 to $2,000. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, right now, my crypto holdings have just quadrupled. Even though the crypto market has taken a serious beat down, because you have to look at the volatility, you have to look at the game, so you have to look at the whales or those big investors that are now taking profits, which are dropping the price, and the valuation, down, but it all bounces back. And we're looking for that serious bounce back within the next month. I believe we're going to begin to look at things really taking off in March. And it just, we just have to like create the incentive, for us to like step out of this programmable existence, that we've been operating in, and step out of the box. We've got It's so important for us now, more than at any other time, to step out of the box. Again, understand the game, choose not to play in certain factions and features of the game, but see where it can benefit you and invest in that, because that's where the big money goes, and that's what they do. They just don't want us to even think that that is a possibility, that that's a reality, that we can step out of survival mode with that level of ease.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole system is based on confidence. When President Nixon removed the US dollar from the gold standard and US dollars were backed by anything tangible anymore, then it was really just a matter of our confidence in a system that could work for us. But the problem is that our confidence is waning because we're looking at the reality of the way the system has been used against us. For instance, look at the idea of inflation. We've had a standard for years that, inflation could be 2% a year. That was comfortable. But inflation is merely a tax. And I can remember working at a company where we got cost of living adjustments. So if there
Right.
was inflation, our paychecks would be adjusted to fit that inflation. But at a certain point, they stopped doing that. So if you have 2%, 3%, 4% inflation every year, but your wages don't go up commensurate with inflation, then you're behind. And now that inflation is being misrepresented, they're telling us that it's 3% or whatever, and it's in actuality 10%.
Or
You can
more.
or more, you can never get ahead. And they use the lack of money as a means of control. So if we're not doing something to get ahead of inflation, then we're going to be trapped by it.
Yep.
We live in a survival mentality where we're doing everything that we can to keep up with our bills. That's the reality of it. We exist to maintain a certain control over the debt. And the debt is also the thing that enables America to create more and more and more money and maintain their control over people. So if we are stuck in this mentality, we're not even saving. Back in the day, Brother Wayne, it was the whole idea was save 10%, right? Pay yourself first, right? Well, if 50, 60, 70% of America is they have less than $1,000 in savings to face any type of catastrophe that they might be dealing with, how are they really realistically going to be able to invest when they can't even really save money? So the currency has been used as a means of control, and we have to do what we can to subvert that control, grow our resources, and be able to afford the things that the elites, they don't worry about whether or not they can buy eggs. If eggs go up to $10 a dozen, they got $10.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that person that's working minimum wage, working one and a half or two jobs, that $10 is a big deal to them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no question. I think one of the things that happens in this particular culture is so much of what we use has been weaponized. And that weaponization, of the various things that basically feed in and integrate with our daily realities, we become so accustomed to functioning within and around those things and the utilization of those things, even though they do a disservice in how we utilize them. And some time ago, I made this statement that, we cannot use the weapons that are marketed to us against the very powers that oppress us and create, manufacture, and provide us with those very weapons, regardless of whether those weapons, are social, political, economic. We have to really look into, again, what we were just talking about, just the fabric of our current culture, identify those things that lie outside of that culture, embrace those things, because that's where our ability to generate power and the ability to manipulate our current reality, that's where those things lie. They lie outside of the general three-dimensional socio-cultural construct that we have been forced in to play. And we in order for us to shift the culture that we are a part of into a morally um, constructive and spiritually instructive reality, those are aspects, dynamics that lie outside of the culture we navigate on a daily basis.
You
And that's where we have to go.
you mentioned that you watched the confirmation hearings for Tulsi Gabbard, and you talked about her disposition. And we have conversations about the feminine divine and feminine energy. And there's no question that it's necessary to have both sides, both energies involved when it comes to this idea of governance. The age of Aquarius is one that is being characterized as one in which feminine energy comes into more prominence. And I heard you say that we're looking more like 2039 as opposed to right now as the beginning of the age of Aquarius. But could you talk a little bit about perhaps the growing momentum of feminine energy in the way we govern ourselves?
Yeah. It's the necessity that we need in order to create balance and eradicate dysfunction. And the programs that we bring into being from this overt masculine perspective that basically encompasses a means and manner of doing it in a way that the masculine dynamic is in everything. It's viral, in its deliberation, um, in terms of all the different areas there that it goes into and what it accomplishes once it gets into those areas, because it goes into the fabric of whatever that area is and literally transforms that into something that is usable based on that masculine dynamic. And so when the feminine dynamic comes into play, it creates just an opposing resonance that then begins to manifest and create um, just a level of absolution that strays away from that masculine dysfunction, which is viral and infectious. Because when you look at all the different systems that come into play, there's always a downside to how they've been implemented and designed. And the reason that downside, is so all encompassing is because it lacks the feminine component.
I want to switch gears and talk about the divine aspect of what we call the creator. In this country, I would venture to say that most of us are Christians. And so our reference or our framework for, conceiving what the divine is based on patriarchy. But I think you probably are aware of and know about the duality of it, the balance of it, and there is divine feminine and there's divine masculine. It's I don't want to say that it rubs me the wrong way, but I will say that when I continue to hear people talk about what we call God and always refer to God as He, it just seems like there's something missing from that equation. So I just wanted you to spend a moment to talk about the duality, the idea of this entity having a feminine aspect and a masculine aspect, and the importance of the feminine in the concept of what we call God.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole dynamic of an operational, functional, and balanced universal reality, I mean, on a constructural basis. And that was one of the things, that our ancestors created in Ifa, as well as the dynamic of the I Ching. I mean, the I Ching, yin and yang literally grew out of Ifa. So we have this construct of duality, but it's more of a way of how those two aspects complement one another, as opposed to um, create disconnect and distance from each other. And so when you really bring them both into the mix, then you have a holistic program or an equation that becomes highly functional and constructive in terms of what it can bring to the table in totality, as opposed to this segmented, compartmentalized way of being and seeing, life as a whole.
Yes. Stephanie Thompson was just commenting. She says that her father-in-law always says Father, Mother God when he leads prayer and feels whole. And I think she has a great appreciation for that. I'm just thinking in the moment how, we talk about God being in us. And if God is in us and God is both masculine and feminine, then that means that that is a reflection of who we are as well. But I think, there's this idea that we can't have a feminine aspect if we're a man.
No question. No question. But see, that's when you look at one of the things in my book, Ancient Future, that I bring into play is out of those divine laws, one of those laws is the principle of gender. And the principle of gender basically says that within everything is the elements of the masculine and the feminine. And with human beings, that goes on and takes effect as well. Within every man, there's the element, of the feminine. Within every woman is the element of the masculine. And you can see how these different aspects function on multiple layers, in terms of our physicality, the organs, the dominant organs in our body, that being, like heart, spleen, lungs, liver, kidney, all of those organs are looked upon as being feminine organs in their design. And they say, well, how can you, give, a gender specificity to an organ like that? Where do you get that from? So where that comes from is the fact that feminine energy is magnetic. It creates the level of magnetism which attracts. And all of those organs in our body, are magnetic. Whereas the organs that are masculine, which accompany those, deal with a more linear electric dynamic that comes into play, which creates the whole sphere of the electromagnetic energy that encircles the planet and operates within and around us as human beings. So we see these gender specifics in everything. Masculine and feminine operates within all things that are born out of this universal construct.
Mm. I could be wrong about this. I'm just thinking on the top of my head, but it seems as though there's that masculine, feminine, even on an atomic level. When you look at neutrons, protons, and electrons, that dynamic exists.
No question. It's in everything.
Yes.
Yin and yang.
Right. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to get to and not gloss over is something that you brought up a few times, and that is, and you didn't say it specifically, but it really is about breath. It's about the life force that exists within us. We could call it chi or what prana or whatever it might be. But one of the keys to us being able to raise our vibrational level and truly embrace and understand that fifth dimensional existence is having an awareness of our breath and the things that we can do to raise our vibration. I wanted you to touch on that a little bit, just so that we give our viewers something that they can use to enhance the quality of their lives today.
Yeah, just using breath, having a controlled inhalation and exhalation, and taking the very tip of the tongue and putting it on the ridge that runs along the roof of the mouth. That brings into play that yin and yang channel that operates in the human body and moves masculine and feminine energy into the various areas of the human body where it's utilized for the purposes of optimum health. So, just having a conscious awareness, just beginning with that, having a conscious awareness of how you breathe is going to change how you navigate your day. Just being aware of how you're breathing,
Right.
because we're not.
And then you have some people who might breathe through their mouths instead of
Right.
through the nose, or
Yeah.
they not fully understand diaphragmatic breathing, where
Right.
when you inhale your stomach expands, and when you exhale it collapses, so to speak. You're
Exactly.
just basic things, but of course breath is the most important thing to us, because if we don't have breath, then we don't have life. But if we gain more control of our breath, then we can gain more control of our life. And I'm also hearing that it's really important at times to slow our breathing down. Some of those yogis could take a breath and hold it for like 3 or 4 minutes or longer.
The cessation of breath is an actual, it's a science that goes into the elevation and expansion of one's consciousness just by practicing cessation of breath.
So
Instead of just breathing, on the regular, you know, take that breath into a controlled format where your inhalation, you know, is elongated and your exhalation likewise is elongated. I mean, there are specific patterns of breath work where you can inhale to a count of 6 or 7, and you hold the breath to a count of 3. And then you exhale to a count of 6 or 7. And then you hold for a count of 3. Now you can follow that particular frame because the 6 hold and formula brings a certain type of resonance to the body mind, whereas the 7 also brings a very specific resonance to the body mind. They both are different, but they both actually create a level of mind body expansiveness.
mm. One method that I discovered a few weeks ago was the 13-8-5-3-2-1 method, and it was described as a way to bring yourself into an alpha state much more rapidly. So you would breathe in for 13 counts, and then you would hold it for 13, and then you would exhale 13, and then do the same thing with 8, then 5, then 3, then 2, then 1. And if you go through this process, it will help you achieve the alpha state much more quickly. Talk to us about the significance of that alpha state.
That's where things happen. I mean, that's where creativity takes place, is rooted. One of the things like dealing with the breath, working what we refer to as the central channel, and creating or bringing into what is called the Akash dynamic, because it moves into the impartial mind where the alpha state is generated from and in along with the dynamic of creativity. So when you go in and you actually embrace that state of being through doing a manipulative process and how you're breathing, then you become and hold access to the creative process in ways that you can't imagine. So the impartial mind is where the whole creative construct operates from. And to get into that place is through the breath. So the breath is key. And we have to stop and think that we can go for days, weeks without eating. And we can go for days without drinking. But we can't go but for minutes without inhaling oxygen and bringing air into the human body. So something that is that profound must have other attributes that can be used to our benefit. And what we've done is we have skirted beyond the functionality, productivity, and just operational divinity of what the breath brings to the table. A statement, things are brought into being by the perception of intention and balance. Medicine as a science of disease has very well increased disease. Religion as a science of sin has very well promoted sin. And economics as a science and study of poverty has filled the world with want and lack. These programs that we have invested ourselves in and live in on the 24/7 have to be removed and shifted and reframed if we are really going to get out of life the things that we need.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Brother Wayne. When you talk about economics and whatnot, when I look at economics, I think about how we live in a consumer-based society. And it's about how much we can eat, how much we can buy, how much we can accumulate. But reality is that less is more. And the less we eat, the better off we are, because we eliminate the strain on our bodies to process all this stuff that we're taking in. The reality is that when we have these processed food diets, it just takes its toll on our body, and it causes the disease and dysfunction in our body because we're putting things in that our bodies can't work with.
No
If
question.
you look at whole foods versus processed foods,
Right.
and it comes in, it's got to come out.
Yeah.
So we're like these machines walking around the planet processing the garbage that we buy because it's good, it tastes good, it looks good, but it doesn't do good.
And the process and program of complexities is a intentional design to distract us and keep us moving and walking around in circles, not knowing which right, left, up, or down. Everything that used to operate and flow within the schematic of simplicity has been removed and complaced with complexity. Everything.
Yeah.
On all levels.
Right.
Medicine, money, just the way we used to do things. Like now, if I call my bank as of today if I call my bank, I used to be able to call my bank at any time, get access to my account, go in, configure, do what I need to do with my account from my phone. And I'm operating from a landline. I have a landline. But now that has changed. They have to send me a 6-digit code to my mobile, and then I have to go to the landline, press 1, and then they'll give me the information after they ask me a few questions about my account, as to, move forward with what it is that I need. These are the things that, we have to really begin to step out of this automatic response mechanism, this microwave psychology that we operate in, and take time to study the environment that we're being pushed into and create an alternative to that. And I'm not saying that alternative has to be all of what you embrace, and integrate with, but you want to always have something else that is outside of the system that you're working in, that you can utilize to your benefit, and that goes on all levels, I mean, that's one of the things, even people within the precious metals asset business, they say you want to have the beauty and the power of owning silver and gold is that the physical metals and their valuations exist outside of the system of control that they have created on paper for those metals. And that's where we have to go.
Yeah, it does exist outside of the system. And when the grid goes down and you have something that you want to acquire and the electricity isn't working and the computers aren't working, but you've got that in your pocket, someone is going to say, yes, I'll take that and give you what you need. Another way that we can exercise control over our currency, if you look at it in a digital space, is having a cold storage wallet so that you keep your money outside of the bank. What you just expressed about dealing with your bank, having to jump through all these hoops, and it's your money in your account.
Yeah.
And somebody else is controlling it.
Right. Yeah. I'll tell you, that shocked me. I was like, whoa, what is this? Not only was the feature new, but the voice on the other side is Hispanic now, So I'm like, okay, they've just completely changed. I mean, we have to stop and think how much America has been outsourced to different countries. Most of the time when you call for whatever, whatever, if it's a sourced commodity, if it's something you're ordering online, that voice that comes across, it ain't us.
It's in India somewhere, maybe.
It's in India. It's in Mexico. It ain't here.
Yeah. And it's only a matter of time before that Indian voice or that Mexican voice is going to be,
or the Chinese voice.
Chinese voice is going to be an AI voice.
That's right.
So you'll hear the same person, the same way we hear the same person doing all those videos on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. It's always the same guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Speaking of voice, Brother Wayne, again, my intention is to give people something that is useful to them. Healing sounds. There are certain sounds that you can generate with your own voice that can send healing energy to various organs in your body. Could you
Hmm.
can you talk about how you can use sound for healing?
Yeah, we are our own musical instrument. And that too is something, that has escaped our recognition. And in doing so, leaves us, in a state of deprivation. So every organ in the human body has a specific healing resonance that corresponds to a tone or sound. And that sound, when used, expressed, toned by the individual, sends a vibrational resonance directly into that organ, which infuses that organ with higher levels of vitality, and therefore greater levels of systemic function. So, for example, the lungs, the sound for the lungs, which has two, the sound for the lungs is And so, what I've done in doing that sound is I've released the accumulated toxicity that appears in the organ as frequency out. And so, when you use these different sounds for the organs, you literally elevate your own mind body resonance to a different level of functionality.
That's interesting and important too in terms of developing the discipline to do that on a frequent basis. And that's what qigong is about. And then you can look at things like tai chi. They use movement to give you some of those benefits. And I think it's important, just in light of the fact that you're doing the lecture today about the African presence in Asia, to understand that a lot of this comes out of our civilization, comes out of African civilization. But these are tools that we have been privy to in years past that we've kind of stepped away from. And I think returning to this knowledge, returning to these practices, returning to this discipline can play a major role in our functionality and allow us to vibrate at that higher frequency so that we're not stuck in that survival mentality. You know, the very first chapter of your book refers to the universe being mental. And I think about that when I consider the practices that you have taught and some of which I implement, knowing that you can do these things and you can use your mind to manipulate energy in your body.
Yeah.
The idea of bringing something up the front channel and down the back channel, the idea of circulating something 9 times, around the crown chakra and then sending it down the back channel. These are things that when we have the capacity to learn and to understand, then we can implement those things and get some benefits from them. But if we're just scrolling on Facebook all day, every day, or we're tuned into the sports games or watching the news or all the things that we do to occupy our time, and we only have so many minutes, hours, and seconds in a day, if we could begin to bring some of these practices into our lives, there would be a direct benefit to our quality of life.
No question, without a doubt. Um, there's so much that we let get away from us that we shy away from because it's something that we think is outside of our comfort zone. And the thing about it is that it really doesn't take a lot of energy and time to embrace a different means and method that's going to benefit you substantially, especially when you incorporate it. See, it's not different, it's not time that becomes the culprit. What becomes the asset is consistency. That's what really creates change in the body mind and connection to a deeper spiritual resonance. It's having a particular practice and then having the consistency that's ongoing to do that practice. When you have that as your operating equation, you will see change come about in your life at a very accelerated pace.
Yes. I have to testify, brother, because I've experienced that in my life. And my challenge at this point is to have the discipline to be able to do it every day. Sometimes we have those days where we have 3 or 4 meetings to go to.
Life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a long time. You could just take a pause for 5 minutes to close your eyes and breathe deeply and center yourself, and then just get back into the regular flow. If you weren't able to do the hour-long practice or the 2-hour-long practice that you're accustomed to, it's I'm just thinking out loud right now. It's like I need to check in with spirit for a few moments to reground myself so I can get back out there and face the world. I also want to testify about what you were saying about the connection of the tongue. Kachari Mudra is what I recall you expressing about that. I've been using a frequency generator I told you about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I have to get that, man. I have to get that information again.
Yeah. But it's really interesting when you do certain things and then you feel a sensation in your body. I'll turn on the frequency generator. I'll adjust it to a certain frequency. I'll connect the tongue to the roof of my mouth, and I get a physical sensation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just bringing these 2 fingers together. Even right now,
Yeah.
this mudra right here, I can feel it in the tips of my fingers. I can, and when I meditate, generally, this is the position of my hands. Sometimes it's that, sometimes the hands are just resting on my knees.
Yeah.
But, I think about those mudras, this mudra right here is for patience. And the patience is something that I need a lot more of. So I
I
can
hear that.
practice with intentionality, but there's this, it's just so amazing how we are designed. We're literally all walking miracles.
Yeah.
We have all these systems working in our bodies. Some are autonomous. They happen. We don't have to think about them. They just happen. Some systems we can make adjustments to how things are. Like if you are in a state of high anxiety, how do you bring yourself down? Slow your breath down.
Exactly.
Or you in a situation where you got to kick somebody's behind. Well, guess what happens? Your heart rate goes up, you start breathing fast, and then, you use that energy to do what you have to do, or you use a certain aspect of your brain and that rationality kicks in and you say, I don't need to waste my energy beating this person up. Let me just walk away. Or
Yeah.
let me do
Or you
something to
can
diffuse
use it
that.
to create a different creative outcome where combat isn't required.
Yes. One of the
I
things,
mean, it's we just don't utilize our tools that are God given to the best of their design, you know, and the benefits that they bring us. We just don't use them.
somebody is asking for a couple more sounds for various organs. So we got a sound for the lungs, and going to the book of Dr. James Brown, another one of those sounds is for the lungs. But you're the expert, so I'm going to let you give that information.
Yeah, the lung sound has a couple of sounds. The z is one. And when you do that sound, what you want to do is you want to feel again the vibrational resonance. So when you do the lung sound to like zzz, you feel that resonance, that vibrational frequency in the lungs. You feel it. Um, Another sound that would be really beneficial is the liver sound, and the liver sound is sh, and the liver sound is you open the eyes wide because the eyes are the opening to the liver. So when you do the liver sound, you open the eyes wide. That energy goes directly to the liver, and what you feel when you do the sounds is that sense of relaxation. So you know that what has happened, because the science behind the sounds is that around every organ in the body is a type of fascia or tissue that's called a cooling sac. The purpose of the cooling sac is to take that energy that comes in from negative emotional fields. And when it comes into those respective organs, depending on what the energy is it fear? Is it sadness, grief? Is it despair? Is it hatred? Is it worry? All of those emotional fields have a direct connection to specific organs in the body. So when we do those sounds, it releases and removes that accumulated frequency, emotional frequency from that particular organ. So the liver deals, the emotional field is anger. And we are an angry people. The longer you can do the sound, the more you use that as the gauge, the measuring stick, to know that you are moving that organ back into optimum function. So a lot of people, when they do the liver sound, they'll start with the liver sound like shh. That's it. That's as far as they can go. But then the more they do it, they get to that place where they had that protracted delivery and release. And that's what you want. That lets you know that when you go from shh to an extended, prolonged expulsion of the sound, of the tone, that you're making extensive headway.
Okay. There are other sounds that you can make, and there are also other methods of breathing. I know you have taught alternative nostril breathing.
Yep, because that deals directly with getting into the area of the mind that is designated as the font of creation.
Okay.
Yeah, the impartial mind.
Okay. Well, as I said, it was my intention to bring folks something that they can use. Brother Wayne, you do conduct retreats where you teach Qigong. I know you had one back in December, and you're currently planning another one for a little bit later in the year. I'd be happy to provide that information to our listening and our viewing audience so that they know when the next one happens. Tell us a little bit about what happens at your retreats.
The retreats are all about mind, body, spirit expansiveness. So we undergo a variety of different mind, body techniques and practices to integrate, align, and create a more significant fusion with spirit, with our spiritual self. And in doing that, it creates a level of self empowerment that we can take into the world when we get back in the world and apply it as a means of regulating, um, shifting, recreating, and managing our daily realities.
Okay. Your website is waynebchandler.com.
My website is waynebchandler.com. And we're working with a new site. We're building a new site that is going to be very specific to a lot of the events that we have, because I do retreats, but I've got two things coming up this year. I've got the retreat coming up this year, and then I have a tour to Cambodia that's also coming up this year, next fall, that is going to be dealing with the African presence in Cambodia. And if we can get into Vietnam, the African presence in Vietnam as well. But definitely we're going to do the African presence in Cambodia.
Okay. Well, today you're going to be doing a lecture about the African presence in Asia, and I believe India, and
And
so
China.
and China. So you'll get kind of a preview if you attend the lecture today. It's not too late to get in. If you want to get that $5 discount, call our brother Lynn Hampton to get in a $20 holler instead of the $25 holler, and that's 163236155. Looking forward to what you're going to share with us today, and I think it's also worth mentioning to our viewers that you worked with Brother Runoko Rashidi, Dr. Runoko Rashidi, when you were with him and Dr. Ivan and Serdima. So you've done a lot to illuminate this idea of our presence around the globe. And you're not going to listen or hear these kinds of things in the classrooms in the Cleveland school system, except perhaps at Wings Academy or some of the universities. The same thing. You have to go out of your way to get access to this knowledge. So I would encourage you, I would implore you to come to Wings Academy today to get what Brother Wayne has for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, I'm looking forward to what you bring today. And I'll see you downtown, brother.
Okay, my brother. It's been a great share. Thanks for having me.
All right. And we got one more comment. I'm going to give Stephanie the last word. She's asking, what books can we follow up on the organs and sound therapy? This is one of the most helpful pieces of information I've heard in a long time. Many thanks. Thank you, Stephanie. Glad you were able to tune in today. And if Brother Wayne wants to share that information with me offline, if you don't have it immediately, I can make sure that you get it. Anything you want?
What you can do, go and Google Montauk Chia, and really what would be better for Stephanie is to either Google or go on Amazon and look up Minka DeVos.
How do you spell that?
MinkeDevos.
Okay. And
Minka
Montauk,
DeVos.
how do you spell Montauk Chia?
MantakChia. Minka's book is hold on, let me grab this book because the name evades me right now.
Yeah, I've located a website for her. Let's see, Yoni Shop. We're working hard for you, Stephanie. Give us just a minute. She's got some visuals on her page. And I'm not seeing any books yet, but her name is Minka DeVos, and she spells it
I was trying to
Minke.
put my hands on Montauk's book, but it's probably in my library downstairs. But Minka's book is Tao, Tao, Tantric Arts for Women. And it's called Cultivating Sexual Energy, Love, and Spirit by Minka DeVos. Montauk Chia actually did the foreword.
Okay.
And I have to say, you can see how thick this book is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a woman's Bible. This book has everything in it. It's just it's amazing, but it has the sounds in it along with everything else. You know, heart and healing, cultivating the female breasts, the jade fountain, cultivating the yoni or the vaginal orifice, Jade egg practices, Tao Tantric Qigong, shamanic empowerment, cultivating your energy, exploring sources of vitality, the alchemy of love, conscious love making, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, the book, has, you know, 361 pages.
Okay. Page a day and you get it done in 1 year.
That's right.
Lolita Ewing, one of our friends, I think downstate, is asking a program today. Unfortunately, it is not going to be on Zoom. So, but I may videotape it. I don't know where it's going to land afterwards, but no, it won't be on Zoom. So you're in Columbus. It starts at 3:30. If you jump in your car, you can make it by showtime. Uh, Brother Antonio is going to do probably the first half hour of the presentation. So if you want to come to hear Wayne, you can do that, or maybe hope that we'll have a videotape available for folks. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Brother Wayne. As always, we are so blessed to have folks like you living in our city, doing what you do, and having an impact on the entire planet. We cannot take you for granted, nor can we take for granted brothers like, Dr. Whitaker and Paul Hill, and many of the sisters. I'm thinking of the our sister Queen, whose name is eluding me at the moment. Maybe it's age, but yeah, we're just blessed. We have folks who are doing great things in our community, and I think we have to do everything we can to amplify them, to show our appreciation for them, and to I don't want to say take advantage. I will just say benefit from our
Right.
connection.
Yeah.
Benefit, because we all serve everyone. The whole idea is we exist for the benefit of others. So, in that sense, you're doing what you're supposed to do, just as we do what we're supposed to do in bringing these folks to you. So, with that said, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day, and we'll see you at Wings Academy. Peace.
Peace.